together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive. Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections drown me, reminding me that I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does bearing my talents to you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay, sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of, jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend, and neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive. Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections drown me, reminding me that I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does bearing my talents to you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay, sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of, jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend, and neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive. Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections drown me, reminding me that I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does bearing my talents to you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay. Sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of. Jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend. And neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive. Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music.
Greetings. Welcome to Golden Sessions with doc.PEACE on KNSJ 89.1 FM. I'm your host, doc.PEACE, Doctor of Pharmacy, Transformational Rhythmic Speaker, and Empress of Empowerment Calibration. As a transformational business coach, I empower conscious luminaries to transform their creativity and expertise into abundant soul purpose. Golden Sessions is a time for us to connect and reset with doses of inspiration to empower our confidence and to foster global unity. So if you're looking for a dose of inspiration to empower your confidence in the face of any obstacle, you're in the right place. During this segment, we feature golden starlings from all over the world who are shining their light so bright to ignite our light and remind us all that together we thrive. Today, we have an incredible guest with us, Mr. Jeremy Schneider. Jeremy is a successful entrepreneur and personal finance expert. After starting an internet company in college and selling at the age of 34 for over $5 million and retiring at the age of 36, Jeremy has dedicated his life to teaching personal finance. He founded Personal Finance Club, a community of champions of the individual investor who help further financial education. Wow, Jeremy, welcome.
Hi, Peace. Thanks. That was quite an intro.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for joining us today and providing us some insight on how we can further our financial education. So please tell us, I know you personally from the beach volleyball world. I know we are both beach volleyball enthusiasts, to say the least. But I'm curious if you would share with us where your story began.
Oh man, my whole story. Well, I guess like in Michigan when I was born and went to school. Yeah, I mean, you did a really good job of summarizing that. Basically, my story as of now is I started an internet company in college. I turned down a job offer from Microsoft, like a very lucrative job offer, and said, no, I don't want a job at a big company like that. started a company. It was terrible for many years, made very little money. It was in credit card debt, etc. And then finally slowly started to figure out over the course of years. And then 12 years later is when I sold it for $5 million. And now I'm basically pursuing my, my passion project career of furthering financial literacy with Personal Finance Club, which is what I do now.
Wow. So that's an incredible story. So you created this business in college. It seemed to be a very lucrative business because it brought you $5 million, which allowed you to retire at the age of 36. So now that you're retired, why do you want to spend your retirement time providing medication, or not medication education, but finance education to individuals? Like, why is that such a draw for you? Why is that your passion?
They say the reward for financial independence is an existential crisis. And so when I was 36 and I retired and I no longer had money as the primary tension in my life, you're kind of left in this place where like, what am I doing? And I think everyone assumes life just takes care of itself. Then you're like, oh, if I had enough money, then life would be fine. But then what do? Just watch Netflix all day? Everyone has dreams of traveling the world, which I do travel a lot. But do you just travel constantly forever and don't provide value to society? And so in my opinion, life is about really two things. It's about helping people, and it's about being happy, helping yourself. And it's lame to a lot of people, I'm sure, but like the thing that I like doing is I like talking about personal finance. I always talk to my friends about Roth IRAs and index funds and investing. That was just like my hobby. Like some people like hang gliding or surfing or deep sea fishing, whatever. I like talking about index funds. And it just so happens that I think there's like a really big like gap in financial literacy in the US and in the world. And so I basically started a hobby of posting about financial literacy topics on my Instagram account a couple of years ago. And yeah, it's grown a lot. And that's what I do now.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned a couple different things there. Like you realize that your mission in life is to help people and to also enjoy life. Those are the two
Yes.
most important things right now. So can you go back and share more on how your personal finance club is helping people specifically?
Yeah. And so, yeah, if it's life's not about money or whatever it is, I think that's what life is about. And when I do Personal Finance Club, I think it does help people and it makes me happy. So, every day I get these like effusively like positive emails and messages being like, you changed my life. People don't know the basics of how money works. And there's a lot of, we don't teach money in school, which is insane. We all go through like 12 plus years of school or whatever it is. And to the point is to make a living, but the metric by which we measure that living, like the dollar, we never really discuss. We don't discuss how to like save it or invest it or manage it, budget it, credit scores, mortgages, IRAs, the whole thing. And so when you basically bring this like just basic financial literacy, it can literally change lives and even change family trees because parents are teaching their kids or they're helping their parents. And instead of being broke and being worried about money and being, dying and not passing on any generational wealth, we're improving those things, and hopefully people are able to better, live their life and by being happy and helping people as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. So before we get into the basics of financial literacy, because that's something I really want to dive in during today's segment, where did you learn these skill sets yourself? How did you learn these skill sets and apply them to your life before you started teaching others how to do this?
So I was a fortunate kid. Like I'm a tall, rich white dude living in America. So there's no real like question that I'm like living a pretty privileged life. And so when I was in high school and I got my first job at a summer camp, I think I made like $1,200 for that year. And then my dad very cleverly took $1,200 of his own money and opened up a Roth IRA in my name and put that money in. And then he sat me down. I was like, and that was a gift of $1,200. And the rule of the Roth IRA is you can't contribute more than you make. And so when I made $1,200, my dad very cleverly, like letter of the law, matched that and put like, my whole $1,200 in. Then we picked out some mutual funds. And so that was, just part of my, late childhood, my upbringing that I just thought was kind of normal. Like you learn how to invest at home or whatever. And then when I was in like my late 20s and 30s, I would realize like none of my friends were doing that even then. And I was like, oh, let me show you. You just go click open an account and you click the fund you want, yada, yada, yada. And so I had a general understanding, like, from a young age. And then when I was 34 and I sold my company for $5 million, my share after taxes was about $2 million. So it wasn't like more money than you could ever spend in a lifetime, but it was enough that if you were a good steward of it, you probably shouldn't be going broke anymore. And I didn't want to be one of those stories of like a garbage man who wins the lottery and then becomes a garbage man again a few years later. And so I started reading like every book I could on personal finance and investing. And it became very clear to me that like all these books say the exact same thing. And it's like not a message that you hear in like mainstream culture or pop media or whatever, because in those places you just have marketing messages thrust at you all the time. But when you read what the experts who know a lot about this stuff have to say, it's like a very simple strategy to actually build wealth with money. And I was like, oh, and so I had a basic understanding that kind of really cemented or concreted my understanding, and then I started teaching it basically.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like you got this experience, you learned this concept at a very young age, and then you found out your friends didn't know about any of this. So that kind of stemmed that desire for you to teach them what you knew.
Yes, exactly. And we would meet on Friday nights and get beer and open up Roth IRAs, and we would call it Personal Finance Club as a joke, like we were all having a club and meeting. And that is actually where the name came from today. Yeah.
Wow. So you started this company about, you said 2 years ago, this Personal Finance Club. You started growing your Instagram, you started delivering this value on social media, and you realized that, hey, this is something that people really wanted. So how is that experience kind of growing through the quarantine, starting something kind of fresh right before quarantine, growing through the quarantine? Did you find that, what was your experience during this time?
So I actually started in January of 2019. So I had about a full year before the quarantine. And it wasn't a business back then. It was just a retired dude in his 30s who wanted to like build something for fun. And and just like in January, I was like, you know what? I've never really used Instagram. I'm not really big on social media, but I'm going to just become an Instagram influencer. Like I'm a 37-year-old white dude or whatever I was. Like I'm just going to, kind of awkward, boring computer science guy. I'm going to become an Instagram influencer. But, I think I just was very focused and determined and started posting every day and like making my content better. And then, so I grew. I had 50,000 followers or so at the end of the year. Now I had like 300,000. And then when the pandemic hit, I had no revenue. I was, wasn't really making a business, but then I wasn't really traveling or doing anything. And as I kind of say now, I just was so bored during the pandemic. I turned it into a business by mistake, where people were kind of thirsting for this exact same information. They basically were asking me, to this day, I get a million questions every day, like, how do I invest? How do I invest? How do I invest? And so I had been putting out that content this entire time, but I was like, what if I just put this all together in a course that's like an A through Z walkthrough with like more detailed, videos and stuff. And I was going to give it away for free, but then I was like, nobody values free. They wouldn't finish the course. Like I'm kind of like losing some money in this thing. If I did have a little bit of revenue, I could like hire someone to like grow it even faster. And I decided to give away 20% of all sales to charity, not 20% of profits, 20% of sales. And so for every, $100 we make, we give $20 away off the top. And so I was like, all right, that feels good, because it's like an engine for good, not just like me trying to like enrich myself further. And that's what I did.
Wow. So it started off as you saying, okay, hey, I'm going to be an influencer and I'm going to give the people what they want. That's how I'm going to influence. And it sounded like they really wanted it.
Yeah, they did.
They really wanted it.
Yeah.
So wow, what an incredible story to say, like, to set your mind on something and then actually achieve it far greater than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah. I wouldn't say greater than I imagined. I think that I had like big aspirations from the beginning. I think most people who become really successful plan to become really successful. But yeah, like the business was a little bit of a surprise. Like, I guess I didn't really know exactly where I was going, and maybe I still don't to some degree. I'm just trying to like, be happy and help people and see where it goes. But so maybe I should be more thoughtful about where I'm going in the next few years.
Well, it sounds like what you're doing is actually effective. It's working. Like from what I know about you, Jeremy, you live through your intuition as well as your knowledge of facts.
I think that's true. And yeah, I think it is working. I think that I'm intuiting what people need and where they need help. And like I said, it really feels like a lot of people tell me it's changing their life, and take them at their word for that. But it's like there's nothing secret, it's nothing especially life-changing stuff. It's just like the basics that I go through. So, but I just think it's like this like gap in education, that people are thirsting for this knowledge. And I'm a little bit like, again, in this privileged position where like I can build this educational course and stuff without having to like prioritize my own financial gain or whatever, because I basically made a decision a couple years ago. I have enough money to live forever off of my investments. And so going forward, if I make zero, that's fine. And so for example, like most Instagram influencers are always doing affiliate deals and brand deals and paid posts and click funnels and yada, yada, yada. Like we don't do any of that. We have zero revenue from any of that. We have brands approach us like about every day, usually, like big brands too. And we just say, sorry, we just, just for the sake of not having a conflict of interest, because as soon as one brand is paying you, then when you talk about it, you're like, you got this guy with all the money is in my ear. He's not going to like if I say what I really think. And so we can just say whatever we want, and it's great.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to get more into these staples that everyone should know in regards to their financial literacy. So we're going to get back to that when we come back. So you're listening to Golden Sessions with doc.PEACE on KNSJ 89.1 FM with our incredible guest, Mr. Jeremy Schneider. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. So stay tuned.
Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections round me, reminding me that I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does bearing my talents do you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay. Sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of. Jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend. And neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive. Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections round me, reminding me that I I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does bearing my talents do you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay. Sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of. Jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend. And neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together
Golden
for
Sessions with
the
Doc
better.
Peace on KNSJ 89.1 FM. I'm Doc Peace, and we're here with our incredible guest, Jeremy Schneider. Let's get back into it. So today is all about personal finance. And I'm going to have Jeremy share with us his 2 rules of building wealth. What are your 2 rules of building wealth, Jeremy?
Well, I think, dipping your toe into the world of, personal finance or investing is very scary. And so I like to keep it really, really simple, because if you do these 2 things, you will build wealth. And if you don't do these 2 things, then you'll be broke forever, no matter what. Rule number 1, it's a promise. It's just math at this point. Rule number 1 is to live below your means. It's to spend less than you make. If you make $500,000 a year and you spend $500,000 a year, you're broke. And so people often make the mistake of thinking that income is wealth, but it's not. Income is just income. And if you spend it all, then you're broke, right? Or they make the even worse mistake thinking spending is wealth. So you see someone who's got like a BMW, or see someone who's buying shots at the club or whatever. Like, that's not wealth. That's broke. That's like losing money. So you got to spend less than you make, no matter what. Every rich person does it. It's unavoidable. And then rule number 2 is to invest early and often, because just saving isn't good enough. Like right now, interest rates are 0.01% or something, and inflation is like 3 to 4 to 5%. So if you're just putting money under your mattress or even in a savings account, you're losing money every single year. You're losing value, you're losing buying power. So you have to take that money that you didn't spend and invest it. And if you do those 2 things, even if the investing's not perfect, even if your income's not super high, you will be building wealth over time. And if you don't do those 2 things, you are going to be broke.
Okay, so it's simple as that. And this is a promise. So if we follow these 2 rules of building wealth, we will indeed build wealth.
Definitely.
Okay,
That's how everyone does it.
Okay, that's how everyone does it. So these 2 rules again are live below your means and invest. Okay, so from my experience, I know that you do indeed follow these rules. So can you share with those who aren't yet familiar with the way that you live your life, how you are living below your means? What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a story. A few years ago, probably 10 years ago, when I was in my 20s, that's a little more than 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was in my 20s, I was in Michigan and I saw like a Lamborghini pull up to get dinner or something. And I was like, dang, that guy's rich. Like, who's that guy? And I was like really like enamored by this like glamour of this like fancy car. And then just like a few months ago, I was driving down the 5 here in San Diego, and this Lamborghini like drove past me, and it was like clearly in the wrong gear. Like he was like, didn't know how to really drive it. And my instinct now was like, who is this clown who like wasted all this money on a car? And not everyone who drives Lamborghini is wasting their money or whatever. Like, maybe that is below your means for some people, but the mentality that you need to spend like to drive a fancy car to have wealth is ridiculous. And so my net worth today is about, when I sold my company, it was $5 million. My share after taxes was about $2 million. Today, just through investing, my net worth has grown to about $4.5 million. And so I could buy a Lamborghini, like I could go buy one in cash, so like a few $100,000 or whatever, and I would still have over $4 million. But like, that's a waste of money. And who cares? What am I gonna do with a Lamborghini? Like park it on the street in Pacific Beach and have it like ruined, or like drive it to my friend's house and like have them wonder why I'm such a douche that I'm driving a Lamborghini to the house? It's like ridiculous. So like I drive a Mazda. It's like a Mazda 2016. It's like a very nice car. It's 5 years old. I live in a 2-bedroom condo, very nice condo. And so I could be upgrading these things, but like I don't think I would be happier. I don't think I would be less happy if I drove a Lamborghini or if I lived in like a super expensive house. And so it's just about wherever you're at. And so right now, like I think I'm living extraordinarily well, but I'm very well off. But when I was broke, when I was making $36,000 a year, I was living in a 1-bedroom converted from apartment. I was driving a '99 Ford Explorer. This is when I owned a business that was doing $1 million a year in revenue. I was still living like that because I didn't want to like burn through all my money. And so it's just whatever you make, you got to spend less than you make, or you're gonna be broke.
So, okay, I hear you on that, but how do you balance like rewarding yourself for getting to this status and living below your means?
That's a good point. The goal in life, in my opinion, is not to like die with the most zeros in your bank account. And I think that a lot of people believe that, if you're not spending it, you're not enjoying your life. But I think what really happens is most people are stressed out and scared and worried about money because they spend all their money, right? And so if you spend, for example, if you make $40,000 a year and you spend 80% of it and then you invest 20% and you put that 20% in a Roth IRA, you'll be a multimillionaire over the course of your career. So that's making $40,000 just saving 20%. Is your life going to be that much better spending all 40,000 versus spending 32,000 or whatever the 80% is? Like, it's all relative, right? So if you spend 32,000, you want to spend 40. If you spend 40, you want to spend 50. There's always like that next level of like you wish you had it, but you will never be rich until you want less than you have. Right. I could say, oh, I wish I had a 3-bedroom condo. I wish I had a house. I wish I had 2 Mazdas. I mean, like there's always going to be some better level. And until you just like find like, but from someone else's perspective, you haven't made, right? Like I remember old Jeremy, like I would have killed to buy like a crappy little 1-bedroom condo. And now I have a 2-bedroom condo. And so guests can come over. Like that's such luxury, right? So it's all relative and you have to find like, be comfortable with what you have or you'll never be happy.
Yeah, that's so true. I love what you said. You will never be rich unless you want less than you have. It's
Book
really
it.
powerful. Yes. So you mentioned, so now we kind of dove into that first rule of living below your means. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this second rule of investing. What are some top investments that we should look into and why?
So the first time that someone dips their toe into the world of investing, like I had this like mental image of like walking into like Times Square in New York City and like seeing like billboards that are like, day trading and Bitcoin and Forex and like, pork belly futures and buy, sell and buy low, sell, just like it's overwhelmingly scary. But that's basically all nonsense. Investing is really just about putting your money into an asset that goes up in value and pays you over time. And there's basically exactly two asset classes I invest in. One is the stock market, and the other is investment real estate. And so with the stock market, even that can be scary, right? Even to something as simple as the stock market. Which stock do you buy? Should I be day trading? Should I be options trading? Blah, blah, blah. That's all nonsense. To invest in the stock market, all you do is buy the entire stock market in what's called an index fund. When you buy an index fund, you guarantee yourself your fair share of all market growth at the minimal cost. It's optimal investing with maximum simplicity. And everything that derivates from that strategy is basically just gambler's advice, usually given by someone who has something to make money off you. There's like a $4 trillion investment services industry who would gladly take some of your money rather than just have it funneled directly from the profits of the companies back to you. So yeah, index fund and investment real estate. That's what I invest in.
Okay, index funds and investment real estate. Wow. Okay. So there you have it. We have the two rules in building wealth: living below our means and investing in these two different avenues, real estate and
Index funds. And that's how
index
rich people
funds.
get rich. It's like it's boring. Warren Buffett was quoted that if you put $1,000 in the stock market when he bought his first stock, it'd be worth like $4 million or 20 million. I'm misquoting this number, but like the numbers are just astronomical. And someone asked, like, why doesn't everyone do that? And he said, because nobody wants to get rich slowly. Everyone spends their whole life chasing this like big win, but then at the end of their life, they're like, oh, they should have just been doing it like the certain way by guaranteeing themselves the profits of all the companies in the world funneled right directly back to their bank account via an index fund. And it goes slow, 10% a year has been the historical average of the US stock market. So if you put in $1,000, you're gonna have $1,100 in the year. Doesn't sound like much, but when you map that over the course of time, and if you keep investing, this snowball effect happens where $500 a month over 40 years turns into about $3 million. So it's like a reasonable amount of money that a lot of people can afford, can turn you into a multimillionaire if you just decide to do it.
Okay, so the turtle wins the race. The turtle wins the race. The turtle wins always, right? Not the hare. Okay, so I want to close on some of these financial myths, and I would love your energy in demystifying some of these myths and your insight. So there's a huge myth that says that investing is complex, it's difficult, it's time consuming. Is that true, or is this a myth, and why?
I think that's a myth. And I hear like every day, someone's like, oh, if you really do your research, you'll know what stock to buy. Or if you if you are day trading and you put enough time into it, and like, it's all nonsense. Like, if you read, there's a great book called A Random Walk Down Wall Street, and it just basically breaks down that myth over and over and over and over. And the reason is because the stock market is what's called efficient, which means, like, let's say I want to buy Tesla stock because I think Tesla's a good company. Sure, but everybody else knows that too. So everything I know, plus the sum total of all other human knowledge, is constantly and instantly being priced into one share of Tesla stock. And so when I buy a share of Tesla stock, I can't know better than the rest of humanity combined whether or not it's going to go up more or less than the stock market going forward. For sure, over short periods of time, there's volatility, and so you can get lucky, and it can seem like you're doing well, and you can attribute it to your skill or your research, but it's just luck. It's just randomness that's expected to be built in. And so when you're doing that research, all that stuff, it's really just costing your time and adding volatility when you should be keeping it extremely simple. It's a convenient truth that, like, the simpler your stock investments, the more successful they are. That's not really true with real estate. With real estate, like, hustle actually helps. If you do a harder job or work harder finding deals or flipping houses, et cetera, like that, for sure, can get you better returns. On the stock market, it is not true.
Okay. So stock market, believe and trust in that investment strategy. So here's another statement. You tell us whether it's fact or myth. And this is Bitcoin and NFTs is a new investment strategy.
I'll go myth. So I invest in things that go up in value and provide income along the way. And Bitcoin doesn't do that. Bitcoin is just basically speculating that someone will pay you more than they currently will, you can buy one for in the future. And there might be reason to think that might be true to some degree. Like, it might keep up with inflation because there's a limited amount of Bitcoin. And if society believes it to be a store of value, it will maintain its value. But it's not providing dividends, it's not providing any sort of income. Doesn't have any sort of innovation in its core or whatever. And so I don't invest much in Bitcoin for the same reason I don't invest in the euro or the yen or the peso. I don't buy currencies. I don't buy gold either, because that doesn't provide value. I buy stocks and real estate that are providing income along the way and go up in value. So yeah, if you want to do a little bit of Bitcoin, way less than 10% of your portfolio as some speculative investment, I say go for it, but don't bet the farm on it, because I can imagine a world in 20 or 30 years where Bitcoin is worth less than it is today.
Okay, and I'll quote you on that.
Go for it. I might be wrong. I'm wrong a lot, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it still.
But you're right a lot as well.
That's true. So 51% of the time.
Thank you so much for your insight today, your light, your guidance, your rules of building wealth. How can we connect with you further?
Yeah, so my thing is Personal Finance Club. I'm on Instagram. I actually just passed yesterday 300,000 followers on Instagram. Yeah, snap. And personalfinanceclub.com, or just Google it. I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay, personalfinanceclub.com.
Yeah.
And personal finance on Instagram and all that good stuff.
Yes.
So this has been really, really great. Thank you again for joining us today. And we really appreciate having you with us.
Thanks for having me, Peace. It's been a blast.
You're so very welcome, Jeremy. You're listening to Golden Sessions with doc.PEACE on KNSJ 89.1 FM. That concludes today's session with Mr. Jeremy Schneider. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope you got that dose of inspiration that you were welcoming, and that priceless reminder that you are indeed gold. We all are. We're genuine, original, loving dreamers, and now we have the tools that we need to build that wealth. So I'm doc.PEACE. Shine on, everyone.
Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections round me, reminding me that I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does bearing my talents to you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay. Sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of. Jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend. And neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive. Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections round me, reminding me that I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does bearing my talents to you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay. Sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of. Jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend. And neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive. Let's do it. Are you my friend? I'll admit, I'm confused. I used to friend request and now I follow. Am I in this alone? I once thought that birds flew solo, each bird on its own, just feathers and bone, relying alone on their wings to soar. Now I see that even though they move independently, they are part of something much greater than what they could be individually. And like a bird, I may sing to my own music and dance to my own drum, but connections round me, reminding me that I am not alone. My purpose is greater than me, myself, or I. I once believed that whether or not I chose to use my gifts was my prerogative. But does burying my talents do you or I any good? Pardon my mind delay, sometimes I may need to remind my mind what it's capable of. Jog myself from doubt to a confident state. See, I am not alone, my friend, and neither are you. I see you. We are in this flock together for the better, and together we thrive. Together we thrive.